Welcome to the 1111 Synchronized broadcast. Everybody, please take a deep breath in, inhaling the love and exhaling the love. Hope this is meeting and greeting everyone in high spirits. Please take a moment to just think of all the things you're thankful for, grateful for, and all the beauty around you. If you have any topic requests, anything you'd like to hear covered on this season or during this podcast, please send those to my inbox on Instagram at Agent K21 Podcast or on Instagram and Twitter at Agent K21. Find me on all the social media platforms. Let me know what you want to hear. Let me know if you'd like me to be a feature on your page or if you'd like to be a feature on mine. So it's a lot of good vibe, energy going around. I hope that rings true for all of you because there is a new moon, a new season, and a new time right now going on. And this happens to be the 5th episode of season 5 of the podcast. And today is May 23rd, which can also be calculated to a number 5. And, at least in America, it is the 23rd today. And so with that, 5 is the number of grace. And so I feel that we are in a very unique time right now. Collectively, socially, globally, I believe we are in a grace period. Now, before we go into what the definitions are and what that means, I've been thinking about this concept for a while because, growing up in the religious sector, you hear a lot of, God's grace and amazing grace and, my grace is sufficient. You hear these different things. And growing up, I would hear all the older people say, nothing but the grace of God that saved me. Nothing but the grace of God. And I'd be like, what does that even mean? Right? And as you mature and get older, sometimes you find out what that means. Sometimes it still falls on deaf ears. Now, what that means to me, what does grace mean to me? Grace is a free offering. It's a free gift of protection and covering and strength. Oftentimes grace is kind of that second win, for those who are in sports or athletes. When you're, running in track, for example, you get really tired and they call it a second win. It's like when you get that wind beneath your wings and you can run like 30 more minutes. Now, I never did track, but I imagine that's what grace is getting that second wind of that second opportunity or that time of like being able to just reflect and find new ways and new energy, new endurance that just magically comes out of nowhere. And it's that motivation, right? Now, I did an entire episode on motivation. If you like, you can check that out. And I feel like grace gives us that covering, that shelter, that protection, and that strength to continue to move with endurance, to continue to persevere in the face of adversity. Now, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. Planets are in retrograde, new moons are happening, all of this stuff. Now, whether you believe in astrology or not, it affects us all. Whether we consciously know it or subconsciously or completely deny it, it doesn't change that it is actually happening. And it's really good to pay attention to the moon cycles, especially, mainly because we are made of water and the moon affects the tides, affects the water. So it has an effect on everyone. Now, if you're feeling a little apprehensive to go deeper into astrology or, the moon stuff freaks you out for some reason, you're not alone. And just know that it's nature, right? And everything that is created serves a purpose. Everything that's created has value, including yourself. And if you're struggling with finding your purpose, there's an entire episode on purpose as well. So before I get into grace, I want to talk a little bit about this new moon energy, right? It's in the sign of Gemini, which is an air sign and an intellectual sign. So I'm going to read a message from the app The Pattern about the fresh start, the new moon, as the new moon can be felt for the next 3 days. The new moon occurred on the 21st. And you're going to feel the energy basically for a little bit. So according to the pattern, it says these 3 days are extremely useful for envisioning how you would like the next month to go for you. During this challenging time globally, making this effort takes on greater significance. So it might be very difficult to stay positive, right? To stay grounded in just the beauty of life as people are starting to open back up and there's different challenges happening, and there's still a lot of fear mongering going on. So it's important to stay grounded. During this time, this is the time to set your intentions. Imagine you are planting seeds, even if you must do so with limits in place. If you are restricted in your movements or ability to plan for the future, this would be a powerful opportunity to take some time to yourself and be introspective. Ideally, you'll create a clear and specific goal. This is the closest new moon prior to the summer solstice. Therefore, this time frame can serve as a moment for setting your mindset for the next 3 months. Try to see this as less of a time for planning or predicting things and more of a time for reflecting and imagining. Ideally, any restrictions in your lifestyle, like being stuck inside, won't prevent you from finding some sense of clarity and positivity. Your goals could even center around how you perceive and accept this time instead of how you can fight against it. Themes to consider when setting intentions include: if life feels overly serious to you right now, are you still able to find humor despite the circumstances? Even with limits in place, are you able to feel curious about life in the world? Or are you rigidly or unconsciously holding onto set routines or what your life was like in the past? Do you still have a playful and mischievous child within you? Consider adding actions and activities that you do just for the fun of it, or just because you're curious. Find and investigate new hobbies and new interests. Try not to worry about the outcome or whether you succeed or fail. Now, the importance of saying all of this right now is because there is a shift still happening on the planet, and it can feel really unnerving in some ways. And so it's good to, kind of reflect and go back to things like a routine that if you want to research more of that, there's an entire episode about routines and meditating despite the circumstances, right? A lot of people are taking this call to order of opening the United States back up and really going with it. Like, so many people are traveling, so many people are opening businesses and doing things. You have to find what's right for you. Now, I feel that there's an important cosmic shift that's happening, and what I think, personally, what I've been feeling is that we are in a grace period. Now, how we operate in that grace period means everything and can change everything. And so this new moon, this new start, this, collapse, if you will, to create something new, do we want that to go in vain? Or do we want to use this opportunity to create something new, to imagine what we would like our future to be like, instead of going back to things as they once were, right? Routine, business as usual. Are we going to go with the flow of what has already transpired, or are we going to go against it? So, what is a grace period? What does grace mean, right? So according to the graceful Wikipedia, a grace period is a period immediately after the deadline for an obligation, during which a late fee or other action that would have been taken as a result of failing to meet the deadline is waived, provided that the obligation is satisfied during the grace period. Now I'm going to read that again, because it might have went over people's heads, and I don't even mean that offensively. Just try to digest this deep meaning. A grace period is a period immediately after the deadline for an obligation, during which a late fee or other action that would have been taken as a result of failing to meet the deadline is waived, provided that the obligation is satisfied during the grace period. Now, to me, I feel that we are in a grace period collectively where we have been doing so much damage and war and fear and just violation of the earth and of its people that it literally had to demolish itself. It had to collapse. It had to breathe for a minute. And side note, I recently watched an older film. I don't know why it was in my recommended field, and I just felt like I want to watch this. I watched Demolition Man. For those who've seen it or heard of it, Demolition Man is a 1993 film with Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes. And it's basically a premonition, if you will, of what's going on collectively right now. I know that it's definitely available on Hulu, and I'm sure other ways you could find it if you're interested in watching it. But what's happening now is very predicted in this movie. And we have an opportunity right now to decide, how are we going to operate right now? Are we going to go back into the world and continue doing what we've always done? Or are we going to accept this fee that has been waived? Because we owe a lot. And, are we going to take that time to give back or to continue to take from the earth and from the people of the earth? And now, usually, for people who are renters or who have, lived in apartments and that such thing, usually your rent is due on the first of the month. If you do not pay on the first of the month, you can pay on the 5th of the month, typically. Between the 1st and the 5th, that is the grace period. You get 4 days, right? I don't think it's coincidence that 2020 is the year of the number 4, or that there's 4 planets in retrograde. I don't find coincidences with that kind of stuff, or with most things. That's synchronized alignment. Basically saying, hey, you got 4 days to get it together and pay what's due, and then you won't have to pay a late fee on top of your rent that you already owe. However, if you decline or you somehow do not provide the means necessary during this extended time, I'm going to be nice enough to say, okay, if you don't have it on the 1st, get it to me on the 5th. And if you still can't get right by then or do right by then the consequences have to happen. Now, sometimes, you're in a bind, you're in a pinch, and you just gotta, make do with whatever happens. Now, are we going to let that happen collectively? We can look at this as a separation thing and just go, well, I'm good. But let's look at this as the world as our home, as it is. And every person that we meet, strangers, loved ones, friends, family, lovers, whatever, they are our roommates on this home that we have. Now, true story, I had a roommate, and that roommate could not come up with their half. It's up to us. Well, in that case, it was up to me to decide, do I want to go down in this burning ship, or do I want to take this into my own hands? And so, if we have roommates that aren't doing right, does it not affect the collective? It does. So we might say, well, I'm good. I don't really care about my neighbor. But guess what? When that neighbor is your roommate in a house that you both owe rent on, you have to do something. You have to sometimes you have to carry the load of, with other people. Sometimes you have to have a heart-to-heart conversation. Sometimes you have to make sacrifices. And we could look at this as, well, I'm just going to do me. But if your roommate doesn't pay rent, it still affects you too. So I hope that you guys get the metaphor that I'm trying to express here, and not look at this as a separated issue, and see the unity and the oneness behind all of this, that this entire purpose of this COVID-19 situation is to bring harmony and balance and unity. Now, whether people like it or not, that's kind of what's going to happen, right? And a lot of us, and I feel like I'm preaching to the choir because I feel like a lot of people who are listening have already accepted that and want that. And it's the people who are not wearing masks or people who are not taking things seriously that we want to say, well, they're the problem. But guess what? We all are a reflection of each other. So if we're pointing at the finger at someone else saying, no, they're the problem, I'm not the problem, there are ways we can help, you know. I saw a message about a guy who created portable sinks for the homeless. He could have said, oh, they're the problem, not me, and just turned a blind eye to them. So what I'm saying is everyone doing their part, everyone collectively doing their best, whether that means staying at home, whether that means meditating, whether that means, you know, showing up to a Zoom meeting in half of a suit. I don't care. Doing your part means being accountable for everyone because we're all connected. And so I feel that we are in a grace period right now. And, you know, a lot of times when we hear the word grace, we think of it being as a religious thing. But it's not necessarily a religious thing. It's a strength, a protection, and a covering for a limited time. You know, it's to say this grace is sufficient for right now. But we have to accept it. We have to own it. We have to believe, like, hey, this time could expire, as all things do. So what are we going to do with the time we're given? And, I just wanted to say all that because 5 is the number of grace. And there's a whole book series about it. I'm trying to remember what that book was. It was something about, I really don't remember. I think it was a Buddhist book, actually. I don't remember right now. But basically, there's a Buddhist book about the 5 senses, and 5 being the number of grace as well. And I'm trying to find it right now, to be honest. It also says 5 is a number of balance, too, which, again, kind of is indicative of what I'm saying already. So, anyway, I'm not going to look for it anymore, but there is a book about the 5. Oh, gosh, it's going to bother me. It's going to so bother me to not know that book. Oh, wait. Nope, never mind. But yeah, what does grace mean to you? That is the question I pose to you. What does grace mean to you? And really think about that. Really think about what does it mean to you. 5 points towards a deeper experience. No, that's not it. I get so anal when I'm like trying to find something and I'm like, I know it's in here. I know it's in here somewhere, and it's gonna bother me if I don't find it. It really will. But that's on me, not on you. So I do appreciate everyone who's listening and who's taking these messages into account. And if they're helping you, please pass them on to someone you think will benefit from them. And also feel free to subscribe as well so you can hear these as soon as they come out. This is really bothering me. All right. No longer bothered. That's my perfectionist kicking in. But anyway, I'm sure if you look, you will find it. And just know that there's a covering and a protection and a foundation that's being built during this year. And we have a time period to really make a difference, each and every one of us. I mean, you taking the time to make a personal difference in your life will affect how you show up with other people, and that will affect other people in itself. So please don't feel like you're just dropping a small pebble in the ocean that nobody notices or nobody feels. You're felt, you're seen, you're heard, you're loved, you're known. And please continue to just do your best and listen to these episodes, because I'm going to be closing out this season here very soon, and then I'm going on a hiatus for a little while, but more on that next time. So I hope everyone is well. I hope this is meeting and greeting you in high spirits. Take care, everyone. Be well, stay safe. Until next time.